Kilauea just erupted again. Episode 45. And in the hours before it happened, the summit inflated by 17.3 microradians. That number, 17.3, isn't just a data point. It's a confession. The volcano told us exactly how much pressure it was holding before it finally let go. And what the instruments are showing right now, that's what we need to talk about. I've been watching the Hawaii Volcano Observatory data feeds for the past several days, and I want to walk you through exactly what happened, why that inflation measurement matters more than most people realize, and what it means for what comes next. Because episode 45 didn't come out of nowhere. It was announced in the language of tilt meters and tremor signals, days before the first lava broke the surface. Let's start with the number that's in the title, because it deserves a proper explanation. A microradian is an incredibly small unit of angular measurement. We're talking about a tilt so subtle that if you stretched it across a kilometer of ground, you'd be measuring a height difference of just 1 millimeter. That's how sensitive these instruments are. Now, 17.3 microradians of inflation at Kilauea's summit. That means the ground itself physically swelled upward and outward as magma forced its way into the shallow reservoir system beneath Halemaumau crater. The summit of the volcano was literally rising, bulging, being pushed from below by a column of molten rock working its way toward the surface. Here's what I want you to understand about that figure. Volcanologists at HVO don't just watch for eruptions to happen. They watch for the tilt curves to tell them an eruption is inevitable. And 17.3 microradians of pre-eruptive inflation is a significant accumulation. To put it in context, the episodic eruptions in this current cycle have been preceded by inflation events ranging from roughly 10 to over 20 microradians depending on the episode. So 17.3 puts episode 45 solidly in the middle to high range of pressure buildup. The magma reservoir was charged, and when a charged reservoir finds a pathway, it goes. Now here's where the story gets interesting, because this wasn't a random event. Kilauea's current eruption cycle at the summit has been one of the most remarkable volcanic sequences scientists have ever had the chance to monitor in real time. Since the summit eruptions restarted within Halemaumau, which sits inside the much larger Kilauea caldera within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, the volcano has been behaving in a pattern that's almost rhythmic. Magma rises from depth into a shallow storage zone. The ground inflates, seismicity picks up, SO2 emissions start climbing, and then the system pressurizes past a threshold and erupts. Lava fills the crater floor. The eruption runs its course. Lava drainage and degassing cause deflation. The ground sinks back, and then the whole cycle begins again. That's the heartbeat of Kilauea right now. Inflate, erupt, deflate, recharge, repeat. Episode 45 is the latest pulse in that heartbeat. What I find genuinely fascinating, and a little unnerving, is how much the data tells you before anything visible happens. Let me walk you through the lead up to this eruption, because the instruments were screaming. In the days before episode 45 broke the surface, HVO's network of tilt meters at the summit showed that characteristic inflationary trend. The ground was rising. At the same time, GPS stations, there are multiple of them positioned around the caldera, recorded outward displacement. The summit region was physically expanding horizontally as magma pushed against the walls of the storage system. Now, pair that with seismic data. The tremor signals that precede eruptions have a very specific character. They're not the sharp jolts of tectonic earthquakes. They're a sustained, low-frequency vibration, a hum. The kind of signal that tells you fluid is moving through rock. And in the hours immediately before episode 45 began, that tremor signal appeared right on schedule. Then there's SO2. Sulfur dioxide emissions are one of the most direct indicators of active magma near the surface because SO2 doesn't come from old, degassed lava. It comes from fresh magma, releasing its dissolved gases. HVO monitors SO2 output continuously using fly-spec instruments and dose traverses. When emissions start climbing toward thousands of tons per day, you know the magma is shallow and on the move. By the time episode 45 began, Every single instrument in that network had converged on the same answer. And get this, that convergence of signals is exactly what makes Kilauea so scientifically valuable. It's an outdoor laboratory running a controlled experiment on repeat. Each episode gives researchers another data set, another chance to refine their eruption forecasting models, another opportunity to understand the plumbing system of an active shield volcano. USGS volcanologist Dr. Ken Hon described Kilauea's current behavior as a gift to volcanology, a living system cycling through eruptions on a timescale that lets scientists watch the whole process unfold in weeks rather than decades. But let's be real, for the people living near this volcano, it's not just an academic exercise. Volcano Village sits just outside the boundary of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. It's a community of about 2,500 residents who have made a conscious choice, some of them over generations, to live within the shadow of one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. And they've developed a relationship with Kilauea that's deeply complicated. There's genuine awe. There's cultural reverence. Kilauea is the home of Pele in native Hawaiian tradition, and that spiritual significance shapes how many residents and native Hawaiians relate to these events. But there's also practical reality. VOG, volcanic smog, a mixture of SO2 and fine sulfate particles, drifts downwind during active eruptions and affects air quality across the island. People with respiratory conditions, young children, the elderly, they feel it. During high-emission episodes, Hawaii County Civil Defense issues air quality advisories. Residents near the park check the HVO website the way people in tornado country check weather radar. It's just part of life. You learn to read the volcano. 1. Longtime Volcano Village resident told local media during an earlier episode this year. For visitors, and Hawaii Volcanoes National Park draws over 1 million visitors per year, eruption episodes like episode 45 are a double-edged situation. Active lava is one of the most extraordinary natural spectacles on Earth, but park access gets restricted during high-hazard periods. Certain overlooks close. Parking fills before dawn as people try to catch a glimpse of glowing lava against a night sky. The National Park Service walks a constant tightrope between allowing people to witness this phenomenon and keeping them safe from SO2 exposure, lava spatter, and unpredictable fissure behavior. Now, you're probably wondering, what's actually being done to monitor and manage this? Because it's not like anyone can stop a volcanic eruption. But what HVO and the broader USGS Volcano Hazards Program have built around Kilauea is extraordinary. The monitoring network at the summit alone includes over 60 seismic stations, multiple continuous GPS receivers, a suite of tilt meters that can detect ground motion smaller than a human hair's width, gas monitoring instruments, thermal cameras, and webcams streaming live footage 24 hours a day. The HVO website updates with new data multiple times daily. During active eruptions, scientists issue situation reports that break down exactly what's happening, eruption rates, lava lake levels if one forms, SO2 flux, thermal output. It's public. Anyone can access it. That transparency is intentional because an informed community is a safer community. Hawaii County Civil Defense coordinates with HVO to issue timely alerts. The alert level system, advisory, watch, warning, gives residents and park visitors clear guidance on hazard status. And the Volcano Notification Service lets you sign up for email or text alerts directly from USGS when conditions change. If you're on the Big Island, or planning to visit, I genuinely recommend signing up. It takes 2 minutes and keeps you ahead of any rapidly changing situation. Here's the part I really want you to sit with, though. Episode 45 is not the last episode. The data makes that clear. After an eruption episode ends at Kilauea's summit, the cycle resets. The lava that erupted has partially drained the shallow magma reservoir. SO2 drops sharply. The ground starts deflating as pressure releases. Seismicity quiets, and then the deep supply of magma from Kilauea's mantle source keeps coming. It always keeps coming. The volcano's supply rate from depth has been estimated at around 0.1 to 0.2 cubic kilometers per year. That's roughly 100 to 200 million cubic meters of magma feeding into the system annually. That supply doesn't stop between episodes. It's relentless. So the question that HVO scientists are watching in the immediate aftermath, if episode 45 is, how fast does the inflation restart? How quickly does the tilt meter curve reverse and start climbing again? Because that recharge rate tells you something about the timing of episode 46. In some cycles, episodes have followed each other within days. In others, weeks. It depends on the balance between how much the eruption drained from the reservoir and how fast deep supply is refilling it. Right now, that's the number every volcanologist following this story wants to see. If the inflation restarts quickly and climbs steeply, episode 46 could follow sooner than expected. If the recharge is slower, the system might rest for a few weeks before the pressure builds again. Either way, and this is what I keep coming back to, the pattern shows no sign of stopping. Kilauea is in an active, sustained eruptive phase. Episode 45 is a chapter, not the conclusion. This is a developing situation, and it's evolving fast. I'm going to be tracking the post-episode 45 tilt data, the SO2 recovery curve, and any HVO situation reports as they drop. Subscribe and hit notifications. When the tilt meter starts climbing toward episode 46, I want you to already understand exactly what you're looking at. And if you're watching this from the Big Island, or you've seen the eruption firsthand, drop a comment below. Tell me what you're seeing on the ground. That kind of real-world perspective matters, and this community is a better place because of it.